He said too late while she was stuck. Why didn't he stop?
The doors slammed shut on her leg and he didn't stop. He looked straight at my 7-year-old and said, "Too late." I was only a few steps away when it happened, close enough to hear the air hiss as the doors sealed, close enough to see Ava's face twist in confusion before it turned into panic. Her backpack was caught between the doors, her body half inside, half out, one sneaker scraping against the curb as she tried to pull herself free. "Ava!" I shouted, already moving. She yanked backward, but the doors didn't budge. For a split second, everything froze like the driver was waiting to see what she'd do, not reacting, not helping. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. Watching. Then her foot slipped. She fell back hard onto the pavement, her hands hitting first, then her shoulder. The sound made people gasp. A sharp, raw cry tore out of her, the kind that doesn't fade, it just sticks in the air. "What is wrong with you?" someone yelled from behind me. I dropped to my knees beside her, pulling her up, checking her arms, her legs, anything that looked broken. She clung to me, shaking, trying to catch her breath. "I couldn't, Mom, I couldn't," she stammered. I've got you, I said, but my eyes were already back on the bus. The doors were still closed. Inside, every child had gone silent, faces pressed to the glass, no one laughing, no one talking. And the driver? He didn't turn around, didn't open the doors, didn't say a word. I stood up, heart pounding, and slammed my hand against the side of the bus. "Open the door!" I shouted. A few other parents joined in, voices rising, phones coming out. Finally, with a slow mechanical groan, the doors opened again. But he didn't look shaken. He didn't look sorry. When his eyes met mine this time, something cold settled in my chest. Because that wasn't the look of someone who made a mistake. That was the look of someone who recognized me. He knew me. That thought didn't just sit in my head, it locked there, heavy and unmoving, as I stood in front of the open bus doors with Ava still clutching my arm. "Man, we need to go," the driver said flatly, like none of this had just happened. I stared at him. Up close, it was clearer now, older, heavier, but the same eyes, the same stillness behind them. "Ava's not getting back on that bus," I said. He gave a small shrug like it didn't matter either way. "Then you should move. You're holding everyone up." A ripple of disbelief moved through the parents behind me. "Are you serious right now?" one of them snapped. "You just knocked her over." "She fell," he replied. No emotion, no hesitation. Ava tightened her grip on me. "I don't want to go on there," she whispered. "You're not," I said immediately, brushing hair out of her face. Her hands were shaking. Behind us, someone muttered, "This guy shouldn't be driving kids." Another parent had their phone raised, recording everything now. I stepped back from the bus, pulling Ava with me. "We're leaving," I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. The driver didn't argue, didn't apologize. He just reached forward and pulled the lever. The door shut again, this time slowly. The bus pulled away like nothing had happened. The car ride to school was too quiet. Ava sat curled into the passenger seat, staring down at her hands, picking at a scrape on her palm. "Does it hurt?" I asked gently. She shook her head, but didn't look up. After a few seconds, she spoke, quiet, uncertain. He looked at me before he closed it. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. "What do you mean?" Like he was waiting," she said. "He saw my foot. I know he did." I didn't answer right away because I had seen it too. At the school drop-off, everything felt off. A teacher by the entrance gave me a tight smile. "We heard there was an incident this morning." "An incident?" I repeated. The driver closed the doors on my daughter while she was getting on. Her smile didn't change, but her eyes flickered. "I'm sure there's an explanation." There it was again. That wordless push to minimize it. "I'd like to speak to someone about filing a report," I said. "Of course," she replied quickly. "The office can help you with that." But the tone felt rehearsed, controlled. Like this wasn't the first time they'd said it. Ava hesitated before going inside. Will he be there later? She asked. No, I said firmly. I won't let that happen. She nodded but didn't look convinced. Back in my car, I didn't start the engine right away. Instead, I pulled out my phone and searched the school transportation directory. It took less than a minute to find him. Daniel Reeves. I tapped on the photo, and the moment it loaded, my stomach dropped. Because I wasn't just recognizing him from this morning, I knew exactly where I'd seen him before. And why that look on his face hadn't been random. It hadn't been about Ava at all. It had been about me. I knew that face, not from the bus, not from today, from years ago. I zoomed in on the photo, my thumb hovering over the screen as the memory pushed its way forward, clearer by the second. Same eyes, same expression, just older now. Daniel Reeves, I said under my breath, and then it clicked. He used to work at my old apartment complex. Maintenance supervisor, always around, always watching a little too long, the kind of presence you couldn't quite explain but never felt comfortable with. I hadn't thought about him in years. Until now, there had been complaints, not just mine. But I was the one who filed the report that actually went somewhere. I remembered sitting in the leasing office, explaining how he'd cornered me in the laundry room one evening. Nothing overt, nothing you could easily prove, but enough to make my skin crawl. Enough that I didn't feel safe staying silent. Management took it seriously. There was an investigation, and a week later he was gone. No warning, no goodbye, just gone. And now he was driving my daughter's bus. My chest tightened as I leaned back in the seat. This wasn't random, I said out loud. He didn't just recognize me. He remembered. By lunchtime, my phone buzzed nonstop. Texts from other parents at the stop. Is Ava okay? That driver was out of line. I got part of it on video. That one made me sit up. Can you send it? I replied immediately. The video came through seconds later. Shaky, shot from behind a stroller, but clear enough. I pressed play. There was Ava stepping up onto the bus. One foot inside, pause. The doors started to close. But the part that made my stomach turn, he didn't react immediately. There was a gap. A deliberate second where nothing happened, where he could have stopped it. I replayed it again, frame by frame. And then I saw it right before the doors shut completely. His eyes didn't flick to the mirror like you'd expect. They shifted directly toward Ava, focused, intent, like he was checking, confirming. My phone rang before I could process it further. This school, Miss Brown, the administrator said, voice careful, measured. We've been informed about the situation this morning. Informed? I repeated, you mean when your driver shut my kid in the door? We're reviewing it as a potential misunderstanding. It wasn't a misunderstanding. I cut in. I have video. Silence on the other end. That got their attention. I'd like you to come in, they said. We can discuss next steps. I'm already on my way. When I arrived, the tone had shifted, but not enough. They watched the video, paused it, replayed it. But still, we can't confirm intent, one of them said. Intent. Like that word somehow erased what happened. As I gathered my things to leave, a staff member lingered near the door. She lowered her voice. Off the record, you're not the first parent to have concerns about him. I stopped. What kind of concerns? She hesitated. Enough that this isn't surprising. That was the moment it stopped being just about this morning. Because if he'd done things before, and now this, then today wasn't a one-off. It was escalation. I got back to my car and opened the video again, paused it on that exact frame, his eyes locked on Ava, not reacting, not surprised, choosing, and That's when the realization hit harder than anything else. He didn't just recognize me. He had time to prepare for this. It wasn't an accident. By the time I got home, that thought had hardened into something solid, something I couldn't ignore, even if I wanted to. I spread everything out on my kitchen table like it was evidence in a case I didn't ask to build. My phone with the video paused mid-frame, the school's contact info, the transportation office number, and his name written on a scrap of paper like I needed to see it physically to believe it. Daniel Reeves. Ava sat on the couch nearby, knees pulled to her chest, unusually quiet. The TV was on, but she wasn't watching it. "Hey," I said gently, "can you come here for a second?" She hesitated, then slid off the couch and walked over slowly. "Can you tell me exactly what you remember when you got on the bus?" She nodded, but her voice was small. I stepped up, and I thought he was going to say hi. "Did he?" She shook her head. He just looked at me. My stomach tightened. "Did he say anything before the doors closed?" "No." A pause, just after. "Too late," I finished quietly. She nodded. That was enough. I picked up my phone and called the district office directly this time, not the school. "I want to file a formal complaint," I said the second someone answered, "and I want it documented that I believe this was intentional." The word hung there, intentional. Within an hour, things started moving faster. Too fast. Emails, calls, a request for the video, another for a written statement. Then another parent reached out, someone whose child was on the same bus. My son said the driver didn't even look surprised, she told me. He said it was like he meant to do it. That matched too closely. By late afternoon, the video had spread through the parent group chat. Then beyond it, clips, screenshots, slowed down versions, everyone analyzing the same moment. The pause, the look, the words, more messages came in. This isn't the first time he's been rough with the kids. My daughter said he skipped her stop last week and laughed about it. He yelled at them for talking yesterday. Each one added weight. Pattern, not coincidence. I called the school again. "He needs to be removed immediately," I said, "not pending review. Now." "We've placed him on temporary suspension." "That's not enough," I cut in. "He targeted my child." Silence. Then, "We have no evidence of that." My grip tightened around the phone. "You do. You just don't want to say it." That's when another piece clicked into place. I pulled up the transportation records they'd sent earlier. Route assignments. Dates. And there it was. Daniel Reeves had only been assigned to Ava's route 2 weeks ago. Requested reassignment. Not random. Not last minute. Requested. My chest went cold. He didn't just recognize her this morning. He put himself there. Ava refused to go to school the next day. "I don't want the doors to close again," she said, her voice trembling in a way I'd never heard before. So I kept her home, and I stayed right there with her. That evening, just as the sun started to set, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost ignored it. Almost, but something told me not to. I answered. "Hello?" For a second, there was only silence. Then a voice. Calm, flat, familiar. "You should have left things alone back then." My blood ran cold. "Daniel?" I said, barely above a whisper. A quiet exhale on the other end. No denial, no confusion, just that same controlled tone. "You made things difficult for me once," he continued. "I don't forget things like that." I couldn't speak. "You wanted to feel safe," he added. Funny how that works. The line went dead. I stared at my phone, heart pounding, the silence in the room suddenly too loud. This wasn't just about a bus. This wasn't even just about Ava. This had started years ago. And he had been waiting for the exact moment to remind me. By the next morning, it wasn't just my word anymore. It was everything. The video, the call, the records. And finally, someone took it seriously. A detective came to my house just after 9 a.m. He watched the footage without interrupting, then he watched it again. Pause it there, he said, pointing to the exact frame I couldn't stop replaying. Ava, halfway in. The door is starting to close. Daniel's eyes locked on her. Now go forward slowly. Frame by frame, the pause stretched out. Not long in real time, but long enough. Long enough to act. Long enough to stop it. He didn't. Then I told him about the call. Every word, every pause, the way he said it, like none of this was accidental. The detective wrote everything down, then nodded once. That changes things, he said. By that afternoon, they pulled Daniel Reeves in for questioning. And this time he didn't stay silent. They found the records first. Access logs showing he'd looked up student information tied to his route. Ava's name, my last name, multiple times. Then the route request. 2 weeks earlier, a voluntary reassignment specifically to this route. No staffing shortage, no random placement. He chose it. When they confronted him, he didn't deny recognizing the name, didn't deny remembering me. He just framed it differently. I was curious, he said. But curiosity doesn't explain the pause, doesn't explain the words, doesn't explain the call. Eventually, under pressure, the truth came out in pieces. Controlled, careful, but clear. He remembered the complaint I filed years ago, the investigation, losing his job, and he never let it go. I just wanted her to feel it, he said. That was the phrase that stuck, not regret, not apology, just intention. He admitted he saw Ava's name on the route list, made the connection, and waited? Not for a specific day, just for an opportunity, the bus stop. The moment, the doors. It wasn't about hurting her permanently. It was about control, fear, a message. That was enough. He was arrested that same day, charged with child endangerment, harassment, and misuse of position, and permanently barred from working with minors. But it didn't stop there. The video had already spread. Parents demanded answers. Why were there prior complaints? Why was he still driving? Why did it take this? The school district launched an internal investigation. Staff who dismissed concerns were formally reprimanded. Policies changed, stricter hiring checks, real-time reporting, mandatory reviews of all complaints. Not quietly either, publicly. And Ava, that took longer. The first few nights, she didn't sleep well. She'd wake up suddenly, gripping her blanket, whispering, "Don't close it." So we talked a lot, not in big speeches, just small, steady reassurance. You didn't do anything wrong. You were exactly where you were supposed to be. I saw everything. She started therapy a week later. Slow progress, but real. 3 weeks after everything happened, we stood at a new bus stop. Different route, different driver. I didn't let go of her hand right away. The bus pulled up and stopped. The doors opened wide and stayed open. The driver leaned slightly out. "Take your time," he said calmly. No rush, no pressure. Ava hesitated at the first step, then looked back at me. "Are you watching?" she asked. "Always," I said. She stepped up, fully this time. No pause, no hesitation. Just one step, then another. The driver waited until she was completely inside, then looked at me and gave a small nod. Only then did the doors close, gently. The bus pulled away, and for the first time since that morning, I exhaled without something tightening in my chest, because now I knew exactly what had happened. And more importantly, it wasn't hidden anymore.